Legendaries in Disney Lorcana are often the cards we chase the most, since they're fairly rare and many of them are so powerful they warp the entire game around its presence. I'm looking at you, Diablo. But there are a fair number of legendaries that aren't very good in general, or just don't have enough support within their deck archetype to make them worthwhile, at least for now. So today, instead of focusing on legendaries that are good and expensive, I want to focus on a few of my favorites that see little to no play, and I hope one day will. Also, these cards are in no particular order, they're just 5 cards I chose after looking at all the legendaries in the game, in the first 4 sets specifically. So let's get into it. Number 1, Hydra, Deadly Serpent. Hydra is a ruby card that's an uninkable 6 cost with 6 strength and 5 willpower. It has one ability that reads, Watch the Teeth. Whenever this character is dealt damage, deal that much damage to opposing chosen character. When I first saw this card, I got really excited and then very bummed out that it sees little to no play. There are a few reasons that this is the case. One is that it's uninkable, and if you're going to run an uninkable card, it needs to have a more significant impact on the game state. Hydra doesn't do anything when it's dropped on the field. It's fairly slow and requires that your opponent lets you attack their characters the turn after its ink is dry, which they probably aren't going to let you do. Which means that you also need to run cards that will either exert your opponent's cards so you can attack, or you need to give this thing rush the turn it comes out with something like Vitalosphere. You could also damage yourself with something like Teeth and Ambitions in order to spread the damage that would be dealt around a bit more. I did a little bit of testing with this card at the start of Ursula's return in a moving damage deck, and it was just too slow and did little to help me win the game. Ultimately, it's a card that's just not going to see play without some significant support, and that kind of makes me sad. Number 2, Maleficent, Mistress of All Evil. Maleficent is an inkable 5-cost amethyst card with 2 strength and 3 willpower that has 2 different abilities. The first one is Dark Knowledge. Whenever this character quests, you may draw a card. And the second is Divination. During your turn, whenever you draw a card, you may move 1 damage from chosen character to chosen opposing character. This card sounds cool in a moving damage deck, which is an archetype that Ravensburger clearly wants people to experiment with, and maybe at some point in the future, it could become good. The problem is that this card has a lot of negatives going for it. You can quest with her to draw a card and move damage around, which is nice, but the fact that she doesn't have evasive makes her incredibly vulnerable to attack. On top of that, she's easily removed by a lot of the removal abilities currently being used in the meta. All in all, there's not a lot of benefit coming from this card, and it's sort of shocking that it's even a legendary to begin with. That being said, I think this card does have potential to someday be a key piece of tech in a moving damage deck, but that remains to be seen. Number 3, Alice, Growing Girl. Alice is an inkable 3-cost sapphire card with 1 strength and 4 willpower. She has 2 abilities, Good Advice and What Did I Do? Good Advice reads, your other characters gain support. And What Did I Do reads, while this character has 10 strength or more, she gets +4 lore. When this card was first revealed, I thought it was super cool, the kind of legendary you want to build a win con around using something like Lucky Dime. The problem is that support isn't that great and doesn't see a ton of play outside of draft. However, Alice just giving all your characters support is nice, with the idea being you quest with all of them and give her all the power so that she can quest for 5 lore. It's a really cool and flavorful concept, but it dies to a lot of commonly used removal, and it doesn't really have any tools to help it survive long term. Ultimately, as much as I'd love to see a deck built around this card that is actually successful, I just don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. Number 4, Donald Duck, Not Again. Donald Duck, Not Again is an inkable 5-cost ruby card with 1 strength and 5 willpower. He has evasive and 1 ability, Fooey. This character gets +1 lore for each damage on him, and he quests for 1 lore as a base. I think this is a really cool card that goes perfect with something like Teeth and Ambitions, which will add 2 damage to him and then will let him quest for 3. His evasiveness also lets him sort of just sit there a while and collect lore. I think this card struggles to see play because the ruby damage deck archetype just doesn't have enough support at the moment to be viable. On top of that, Donald only has 1 strength, so it means that if he wanted to add damage himself manually through combat, he's probably not taking anything out without some strength boosts. There's a chance Donald sees some fringe play down the road, but the awkwardness of this card sort of keeps it from seeing any meaningful play. Number 5, Mickey, Brave Little Tailor. And finally, our last card is maybe the most iconic card in the entire game. Mickey, Brave Little Tailor, or BLT for short, is an inkable 8-cost ruby character card with 5 strength and 5 willpower. He has evasive and quests for 4 lore. Mickey BLT did see some play back during set 1 when the card pool was very limited, but over time he's fallen off tremendously. I think the reason he's not played anymore is that he costs 8 and has basically no impact once he hits the board. He's also very understated for an 8-drop regardless of questing for 4. I'd love to see this card come back somehow, or maybe get a stronger version of BLT, simply for the fact that this card is maybe the most iconic art in the entire game. It's one of the first cards that was revealed, it's a golden prize card for challenge events, it appears in lots of promotional art for the game. BLT Mickey is basically the Pikachu of Lorcana, and for that reason alone, it would be nice to have him see some play. Well, that's my list for legendaries I'd love to see played more in the future. Let me know in the comments if there's a legendary that I didn't list here that you'd love to see get some love in a future meta. As always, remember to like and subscribe and hit the bell icon to get notified when I post more videos. Thank you for watching. Bye bye. Love ya.